What's up with DTLS and Q3 DDoS attack trends?
So I heard that you have a story related to DDoS within 2021. You want to expand on that for us?
Yes, thank you, Tony. The story is about various DDoS attack trends, especially observed in the last quarter, which is 2021 Q3 by Cloudflare. It's not holistic, but we know Cloudflare does lots of DDoS mitigation, and the report and the points from here is from their perspective, but I think it holds true for other providers also. What they said is they have seen increased attacks on VoIP services, like, for example, VoIP.com. I think it happened somewhere in the early third quarter. Basically, some actors, I think in one case, one of the rival ransomware actors, they held ransomware for $4.5 million by providing a DDoS attack, actually, which they used to hold them for the ransomware. We typically observed in the past, DDoS, they kind of used as a smoke screen to do some other exfiltration. I think in this scenario, they directly used for the ransomware. And one other interesting point is record-setting HTTP attacks, which I'll go into a little bit later. And also, the size of the layered attacks have increased from quarter to quarter. That means 2021 Q2 to 2021 Q3. Those are some of the interesting ones, but I want to dig a little bit further. And one insight they're given is in case of layer 7 attacks, the average size of the attacks increased, I think, 573% from previous quarter. That's a huge jump. I mean, there are not a lot of industries, but most of the industries in the sense, I think some of the IT industries, I believe there's some mix of cloud and gaming related services. So I think those were there, and the increase is substantial. About 600% is a huge increase. They have also given some stats about layer 3 and layer 4 attacks, which increased, I think, 44% to 48% worldwide from previous quarters. So those are some of the stats. And some of the salient features I felt is when they come into application level, which they call layer 7, most of the time they talked about HTTP-based DDoS attacks. In this scenario, we observed there are a couple of high-profile attacks happened in one of the search engines in Russia and in one gaming website, which were subjected to large, I think we ever seen HTTP DDoS attack. I think that those are one of the reasons actually they have seen a huge increase in that attack vector sizes. And what are the top countries which were targeted for these attacks? I think top 3 positions are held by United States, followed by UK and a little bit of Canada. This is, I think, since going back maybe a year and a half, I think seeing Canada is first time for me. I think the reason for them to crept into the top way is because of some of the VoIP provided services they reside in Canada. Because of the DDoS attacks, I think they came into the top position here. And going on, while talking about the layer 7 HTTP huge attacks, we have to talk about the new botnet came into place, which is Maris, which is nothing but which is a new botnet, but I think it's loosely based on Mirai code. It's debatable, but I think it operates on the same modus operandi. We know when I think Mirai came in 2016, maybe late 2015, around that time, they used to target lots of IoT devices. But what Maris does is instead of IoT devices with the low horsepower consumption power, they targeted in this case, I think MikroTik routers, which were very popular in some parts of the world, and they kind of targeted those with some vulnerabilities. I think we did some did some analysis and provided some insights into this botnet, which basically used MikroTik devices. By leveraging these vulnerable devices, they could able to scale up the large HTTP DDoS attacks. That's one important point. I just want to bring it up. Besides layer 7 / HTTP DDoS, they have some statistics about typical or day-to-day level 3, level 4 network layer attacks. As I said before, I think it increased about 45% worldwide. But what are the top attack vectors? Obviously, SYN flood is the favorite for all of the attackers. I think still it holds true with, I think, about 54% attack vectors they observed. And the second position is taken by the reset floods. I think it's basically some little combination of the SYN flood, right? And it was about 11%. And the last point I would like to bring to your attention is there's a new attack vector in this. It's not new, but I think they leveraged a lot in this case is DTLS amplification. Basically, what's DTLS? It's basically UDP version of the TLS version of the protocol. You have the security of the TLS, but I think connectionless protocol of the UDP, which basically provides faster transfer rates, right? And where is this DTLS used? It's typically used in VPNs, I think internet telephony and gaming industries. When we say about DTLS and where it is typically used, we can actually go back and see, they targeted VoIP-based services, they targeted gaming-based services, and also, basically, I think they all come together why we are seeing so much activity in the last quarter. And here is actually scary statistics I want to give about the DTLS amplification attack, how much it increased from quarter to quarter. That means 2021 Q2, 2020 Q3. The increase they've shown is a 3,500% increase. That's more than 3,500 times.
It's wild.
It's wild. It's wild. I think this is one of the maybe recent latest attack vectors we need to be cognizant about, maybe keep an eye for this. And we all know because since the start of the pandemic, most of the devices which cater to home routers, maybe VPN kind of devices, they were a big target by these botnets. Mm-hmm. So these are some statistics. I know they have a lot more statistics than what I've explained, but these are some of the interesting facts I would like to bring your attention, get some thoughts, what you guys feel about them.
Well, I mean, I think it's telling how much of an increase the DTLS vector is. I mean, 3,500%, that's not just an uptick. That's just like a whole new thing that everybody in the attacker world, in the DDoS world, wants to attack. I mean, it makes sense because you've got COVID, people are working from home. Obviously, DTLS is used a lot in VPN, so that vector becomes a little juicier as a target. But man, 3,500%. I mean, when was the last time you saw a 3,500% increase in anything? That's pretty wild. I do want to mention too, the article. It's a Cloudflare blog article. There are some great visualizations in this article.
Yes.
They break things out. It's color coded. I don't know. Whoever worked on these visualizations did a pretty good job because they delineate a lot of information pretty easily. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with you. Basically, the blog is, even though it's a blog, actually, it's a wealth of information. They did a tremendous good job with that one. I agree with that, too. But I only basically, I think, touch the surface of all the facts they've given. But I think these are important to bring up to the table.
Now, I got a question related to the article and basically your experience, because I know that you know DDoS very well. You had mentioned that some of the targets, VPNs, home routers, and all that. Do you have any idea on maybe certain companies or business verticals they could be focused on, maybe using that huge increase against, certain companies or different parts of the world? You mentioned U.S., you mentioned U.K. and Canada, but I mean, was there anything particular there that you uncovered, or I'd just like to get your ideas on that?
Okay, from this article, I think if we are talking about, let me split it into two ways, Tony, if you will me, for the level 7 and HTTP-based DDoS attacks. I think most of the concentration would be where these microtic devices are present. That would be the places of origin. I mean, in the case of HTTP devices, there won't be much of spoofing in the sense, like in the traditional sense, we can't really spoof the sources. For example, let's say for China is the biggest contributor for L7 attacks. Maybe that could be the reason because they have heavily concentration of microtic devices. And in the past, we have seen with other analysis, right, most of the times, these microtic devices, maybe some of those home router kind of devices, mostly concentrated in Asia-Pac region. So in that perspective, maybe it's not always the case in this scenario. The sources of the attacks are maybe victim devices are true in the sense they're not spoofed. If we flip around with the other type of attacks like L3 and L4, it becomes a little dicey in the sense often the sources have been spoofed. For example, I think I missed to point out this fact actually. They have one fact about Morocco, the country Morocco. They said that their highest DDoS activity happened from Moroccan region. The reason they said is 3 out of every 100 packets were part of a DDoS attack. I think as an internet connected country, if you take the footprint of Morocco, I think it's a substantially higher percentage of IPs, maybe devices, are participating in DDoS attacks. So I know it's not the complete answer, but I think depending on the scenarios, maybe this holds a little bit true based on the L7 or L3 and L4.